Hello everyone, welcome back to Fanblade. I have cleared the bench, I have cleared my schedule, and we've got a clear run at a base build. Just in time for winter to set in. Hopefully I can knock this out in the next week or so. I've got a design in mind for a base that I've wanted for a long time, and I actually had one a couple of years ago. This is a Warwick Starbase that I bought online in 2019, and if I'm perfectly honest, had I had the chance to play it before I bought it, I would not have bought it. It was heavy, it was cumbersome, it was unbalanced, it was uncentered, and it sounded terrible. The best I can describe the tone of it, if a P-base is like thunder and lightning, then the Warwick Starbase was like a slight drizzle on a grey morning when you've got to go to work early so that your boss can yell at you. It's just a disappointing instrument in every single way. Whereas this, by comparison, is my Epiphone Casino Coupe from about the same year, and I love everything about this guitar with a couple of exceptions. It is completely hollow, there's no centre block, so it howls with feedback. That's a problem. Also, that edge, still very sharp. Like, it's not actually that comfortable. Not that I, particularly spend hours playing guitar. I'm not really a guitarist. Well, I do have a few of them around the place, but this is, by a long margin, the cream of the crop as far as guitars go. I'd really like a bass to match. So that's the design brief right there. I want a 339 sized bass. I'm probably going to have to make it medium scale because if I make it long scale then it's just going to be neck heavy, and I want to round the edges off, so I probably can't have binding. I want it to be nice and light, so I'm going to cut some, it's going to be semi-hollow, as distinctly different from being semi-acoustic, because I am well aware that this thing that I'm going to build is going to have all the acoustics of a shoebox. I'm not building an acoustic instrument to be an acoustic instrument. I'm building a hollow instrument to be lighter than a solid instrument. Let's just make that clear. So, what I need to do, though, is actually draw it, because I don't have any templates, I don't have any measurements. I do have some hardware that arrived today, I'm very happy to say. So let's get to it and find out how many problems I'm going to have to solve, because I think there's going to be a few. So after quite a lot of fiddling about with it, I finally have the shape looking good, but crucially, for legal reasons, is not a direct copy. I pulled some measurements off the original, but All of this, I drew all this by hand, including the F-holes. This is my own design for legal purposes. Let's take a moment and talk about F-hole theory. If you look at a traditional instrument like a violin or a double bass or even an archtop jazz guitar, you will see that the location of the bridge in relation to the F-holes is fairly consistent. It's right in the middle. You can draw a line right across the centre of them and they should all line up. Now in the case of this bass, obviously I'm going to have a centre block. These portions of the top are not going to be a soundboard. These F-holes are literally just cosmetic. The bridge is sitting there. That is not the right place, traditionally speaking, to put it if it were going to be an acoustic instrument. Now, doing F-holes purely for cosmetic reasons is not a new concept. Think of a Fender Thinline Telecaster, think of Gretsch having painted on F-holes, even Epiphone have previous in the same way. My EB1 has a painted on F-hole, and the original Rivoli bass, the bridge is way back from where the F-holes are. Interestingly enough though, Epiphone do a deluxe acoustic bass which has the bridge in the same location, but they've moved the F-holes down. That is acoustically correct. Traditional instrument designs would dictate that that is actually the correct thing to do, even if it looks stupid in my opinion. So, like I say, there is an awful lot of science and tradition that goes into the design and placement of F-holes on an acoustic instrument. None of that applies to this. This is purely for the looks because I think they look cool. They look classy, they look classic, I like them. It's time to make a template. The template is made. I'm rather happy with that. That looks good. That'll be useful in the future because I quite like this shape. I'm probably going to make a few of these basses, so, that's good to have. I have worked out the basic dimensions of my pickup. I haven't properly designed it yet, but I know that it's going to be that size, so I've drawn that in, also just sketched in roughly the bridge and the tailpiece so that I could work out what my cavities are going to look like, and then I also made this template there. So that's my routing template for the cavities. Of course it's symmetrical, so that'll go on both sides. I've left plenty of room around the pickup, the neck, and of course the bridge. This whole centre block's going to be as solid as it needs to be. So the next obvious question is, what am I going to make it out of? And a wee while ago, a friend of mine gave me this giant slab of ash. That's rather good. It's also extremely heavy. I don't actually know how heavy it is because my scales only go up to 5 kg. I'm estimating it that it's about 6. Roughly. The top is going to be this piece of walnut here, which I've had hanging around for quite some time. There's been a couple of instruments taken off this plank before, but there is just enough left. There is just enough that I can get one side of an instrument and then book match that for a book matched walnut top on an ash body. I'm also going to have to be quite careful with the marking and cutting of this piece of walnut because I don't have very much extra to work with. There's not a lot of room to manoeuvre. Everything's going to have to be very carefully lined up and marked for alignment every step of the way. So as I'm cutting cavities in this, I'm I'm possibly also going to have to cut some cavities on the inside of the walnut, just to get the thickness for the F-holes so it doesn't look sort of weird and chunky, but also maintaining the gluing surfaces and making sure that that's all going to be stable and strong enough. So yeah, this is going to be a bit fiddly, but I'm up for it. Let's do this. So it's 3.1 kg on its initial cut. That's roughly what I was expecting. I'm hoping to be able to cut away a whole other kilogram, hopefully even more. There's quite a lot of material to take out of both sides here. I have also decided that this area, this side where I marked everything out, is way more attractive as the back of an instrument than that side. This discoloration and uneven grain matching, yeah, let's cover that up. I'm going to have to be a little bit careful when I'm hogging all this material out, because I want to put a belly carve on this side. So, essentially, I'm going to have to leave a little area where I don't carve as deep, just around here. So, I'm going to mark all of that out. Then, I've got to work out how on earth I'm going to hog all this out, because Forstner bit, sure, but I can't get into the tight corners, so I may have to get the chisels happening, which will be an interesting experience, because turns out this wood's really, really hard. That jigsaw was struggling. Even the bandsaw didn't like it all that much. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of hard work, frankly. But, as I said before, I'm up for it. So, we've wound up at 1.98 kg. That's pretty much exactly where I was hoping we would get to. I'm very happy with that. I know it's not exactly pretty, but it sure is ugly. So the last mission that I've got to deal with today is cutting and scarfing a neck blank. And that's fine. I'm going to use Quilla because I've got a massive block of it. It's a pretty massive block. Alright, that seems like a pretty good place to leave it for now. I've got to leave that overnight to set properly, and then tomorrow I can actually make some proper noise and book match the top and carve that out nicely. Yeah, like, it's not looking great at the moment. It looks pretty awful, to be honest, but it will look a heck of a lot better than that by the end of the next video. So yes, thank you very much for watching, thank you very much for subscribing, and I'll see you in a couple of days with part 2. Cheers.